all schools to suspend all public activities and frontline healthcare workers of COVID-19 to get incentives. I think a lot of these headlines possibly printed before the president's speech last night at 10 p.m.
The Herald goes a different direction with their banner headline. Unipass deal collapses Akufo-Addo's economic management team. Turf war recorded between Baumia and Osafo Mafo, that's according to their banner headline. Accra schools on coronavirus red alert, also clearly printed before the president's address. And Stanbic Bank in trouble over clients' money as Charles Zwenas and Philip Addison face off. Finally, Ghana's unreadiness for deadly coronavirus showing.
Well, so the Ghanaian Observer says COVID-19 government announces restrictions and shortage of hand sanitizers hits Ghana. And Pung youth bare teeth over Pung landfill site. They appeal to government to close down overage site. And finally, University of Ghana suspends lectures as student test positive for coronavirus.
Or perhaps maybe a little later on this morning, we can teach people how to make their own hand sanitizer. May not
make
be
it
as
right.
Make it right. May not be as effective, but in the absence of the Ghanaian Times, government advises visitors against travel to Ghana. Coronavirus update: Ghana braces to combat COVID-19 as GES announces 4 more new confirmed cases. 4 perished, 21 injured in 2 separate accidents near Teacher Mante. And on the back page, Kotoko Hearts in action today. Exciting matches as always, except that there'll be nobody at the stadium because we're not really allowed to do that.
Yeah, public gathering. So why don't you just suspend the league so we can wait?
No, actually, it has been suspended. The Ghana Football Association put out a statement.
Okay, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. I'm sure it was after this publication. Yeah.
Perhaps. All right, the New Crusading Guide has Tango at Presec Staff School as head teachers hijack KG feeding fees. Timber harvesting in Volta Lake depleting fish breed. And VIFA is the one lamenting, or the organization lamenting. Charles Zwenas reacts in the Merlin Gaming Ghana saga. Demo looms over Pung landfill site as youth demand closure. Over 400 delegates totally endorse Professor Dixon Yeboah, and Dr. Amin Bonsu receives award from Global Black History Honors.
The Daily Guide is next and says teacher rapist sacked, coronavirus catches 6 Legon student positive and government restricts travels, and Robacop jailed 40 years, and finally 3 die in Teacher Mante accidents.
Okay, the Daily Statesman, coronavirus threat, institutions suspend public gatherings, office closed. Don't come to Ghana now. Government imposes travel ban on countries with over 200 COVID-19 cases and 1.4 billion cedis for water projects this year. Speaking of water, I've not had running water for a week now.
Yeah,
week.
So how are you going to wash your hands?
It's very hectic because actually yesterday my son was asking me because I'm Miltoning. You know Milton, the thing that you use to disinfect baby bottles.
Right.
Well, I found some, so now I think I'm a little OCD at this point, but I'm Miltoning water and that we're using to wash our hands, and so I'm like pouring water on his hands. And he's like, "But mommy, we're supposed to be running water. Is this water running?" I thought, and I'm like, "Yeah." So anyway, Ghana Water Company, Kokomlemle, we haven't had water for about a week. So if you can sort that out this morning, and please, Elvis Squashy, don't send me an invoice for that because corporate social responsibility. Get the taps flowing in Kokomlemle.
Actually, I just got a message from a listener, so you're representing a very large group of people now.
Okay.
Yeah, please alert the team to query Ghana Water Company, why water has not been running in Kokomlemle, especially around the Challenge Bookshop area for about a week. In these times, it is essential we get running water.
Yes, indeed. You guys, let me just do the Economy Times, and then you guys come in. Banks credits to private sector rebound records 23.8% growth. Ghanaians to expect price hikes of goods by May 2020, and banks profitability growth soar.
All right, the Daily Graphic has quite a few on the front page, at least 4. Nation confronts COVID-19 head-on. Public gatherings cancelled. Schools closed down. Details on page 3. Also, CSM kills 18 in Upper West. That's the cerebrospinal meningitis. Another outbreak that we have to manage every year. Landfill site poses danger to residents. And Daily Graphic, formidable development partner. Dr. Lecha declares at Volta Regional Spotlight launch.
So the Business and Financial Times is the final one that says, it has an interesting story. It says, Coronanomics, early $3 billion US Eurobond issuance a smart move. Extra $63 million per annum would have been paid if bond was raised this month. And don't go on strike, Aviation Minister urges airport staff as COVID-19 puts industry in crisis. And Maritime Authority removes deadly tree stumps on Oti River.
Okay, the last paper is the Independent. Fuel prices to fall by 8%. That's some good news. Coronavirus, these are not ordinary times. President issues stern directives. Do more for the poultry sector. It could boost the economy and reduce unemployment. And that's it for the headlines.
Let me start with the international newspapers this time for the online review. A lot of the papers have been talking about the local coronavirus situation, but the BBC.com says Africa Live, South Africa joins Kenya in banning foreign visitors. The ban comes into effect on Wednesday. A Kenyan man has been arrested for fake news on coronavirus. Apparently, he tweeted that there was a lady who came from Rome and boarded a certain plane, and he's been arrested for doing that. More African states impose travel restrictions in face of this. The Ghana situation is reported. Kenya, Djibouti, Tanzania, Morocco, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, Mozambique, a number of them. So many coronavirus stories, especially the implications on travel. The tourism industry is at its lowest since 9/11. About 50 million people are estimated to have lost their jobs worldwide. In China, the film industry lost $2 billion in the first quarter of the year. It's serious. It's a very serious situation. It's much more serious than I think we are even realizing here in Ghana. MyJoyOnline.com's top story: coronavirus. Government orders closure of schools and universities, bans public gatherings, and I think this is quite unfortunate. University students jubilate after latest directives on coronavirus. I had a laugh when I watched the video, but if you think about the fact that this disease is much more serious than we think. I think
they're purely just jubilating on the fact that they don't have to go for lectures.
Yeah, but
I don't think it extends into the fact that they're jubilating over corona. I mean, remember when we were kids and something happens, you don't have to go to school. And they may also be jubilating because they feel that the president has made the right decision for them by compelling them to not go to school.
Anyway, these boys were singing
Corona
Fire and Coffee.
Daniel, listen.
But anyway, it's fair. It's fair.
I am still in school, and I can tell you, on our student pages, for instance, as early as Saturday night, many of the students were actually urging the class executive,
right? Yeah.
Please, are we also going to suspend lectures? Aren't we suspending lectures? And when eventually the president suspended, they said, all public universities and private universities, they were happy. And they said, please tell the administration no submission of assignments.
Okay.
Students would do that.
Here's a story that Don K from Darkoman will be very interested in. You sent in a message asking about the petrol price decrease that was announced by the NPA sometime last week. CityNewsroom.com says IES predicts 5 to 8% drop in fuel prices today. So let's keep monitoring and see what will happen. COVID-19 government pushes for improved hygienic conditions of public vehicles. StarFM.com.gh. COVID-19. Ekufadu suspends all public gatherings. That's the main story there. And Legon suspends lectures. Ghana now has 6 cases according to government. A number of headlines on COVID-19. But before we get into the details of the story, guys, let's learn how to say it right, shall we?
Something must be done.
Kojos,
Dimwizi,
I hope you've been practicing your distancing from these young women who keep sliding into your DM.
I am strictly following WHO guidelines here.
Are there guidelines for...
Swiftly changing the subject, here's a pop quiz for you. Which of these two is correct? trafficator or trafficator?
Oh, that's an easy one. Trafficator, the blinking light on a vehicle that indicates the direction on which it's going to turn.
Yes, that's how you say it right, you little genius, you. Now, please step away from me. You are far too close for coronavirus comfort.
Oh, how's this?
A bit farther.
Is this okay?
Farther still.
Okay, how about now?
Look, just go into the other room and switch on your trafficator on your way. And that's how you say it right.
I like pajamas. I'll wear pajamas. Give up pajamas.
Charlie, you guys are just awesome, man. This is amazing. Thank you very much, Kojo Enenimwa.
Live drama in the studio.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, but let's move on swiftly to coronavirus. So, Kojo, you have some updates for us?
I do. So yesterday we were told the details of, we were told about 4 more cases that had been confirmed here in Ghana. Let me very quickly give a bit of an update. We already know about the first 2 cases, right? First one, 36-year-old Ghanaian male, lives in Accra, came from Turkey on the 29th of February, developed symptoms on the 10th of March, and reported to health facilities on the 12th. And then he was diagnosed on the same day. Second was a 60-year-old Norwegian male, returned to Accra on the 7th of March. Symptoms started on the 12th. They reported to a doctor same day. Samples taken, and he was diagnosed. Now we have 4 more. First one, Friday 13th of March, reported the case to the in the Ashanti region. He had been in the UK and came back on the 4th of March. Developed symptoms on the 10th. He's 56 years old. Reported to a hospital in Obuasi, and on the 12th. He was identified as a suspected case. Samples were taken, and on the 13th, the results came back confirming his case. The second is a Ghanaian female student. We don't have her age, but she returned to Ghana on the 9th of March. She developed symptoms on the 13th and reported to a health facility on the same day. She was diagnosed on that same Friday, the 13th of March. Now, she came from the United States, from Texas, and she's currently receiving treatment in one of the isolation centers. Also in isolation is the gentleman, the first case, the gentleman who came from Turkey.
The Ghanaian diplomat.
Well,
he's a Turkish national, isn't he?
Well, the Ghanaian who works for UN. Yes, for the UN. So he is under quarantine at the moment. That's it. That makes up that makes up 4, and then we've now got 2 more which were diagnosed on Saturday. The first is a 42-year-old Ghanaian returned to Ghana on the 8th of March from Switzerland and the UK. He's been in Ghana for at least 14 days. His symptoms started on the 9th of March, and he was diagnosed on the 14th after he reported to a health facility. Now, let's see. The last one is a 41-year-old Ghanaian. He reported to Tema General Hospital on the 14th, and he had fever and respiratory symptoms. They started on the 10th, okay, but he went to the hospital on the 14th. The symptoms started on the 10th. He had been to Germany and Turkey in the past 14 days, and he's currently under isolation, receiving treatment. His condition also is stable.
So all of these 6 cases, if you heard Kojo speaking, are imported cases, meaning they went to countries that have coronavirus cases in their numbers and they came to Ghana, which is what is informing the president's decision that if you've been to a country, government's decision that if you've been to a country which has more than 200 cases of coronavirus in the past 14 days, you shouldn't come to Ghana at all unless you're a Ghanaian citizen, of course. But let's hear President Akufo-Addo giving some more flesh to the decisions that government has taken last night at 10 p.m.
Firstly, all public gatherings, including conferences, workshops, funerals, festivals, political rallies, sporting events, and religious events such as services in churches and mosques have been suspended for the next 4 weeks. Private burials are permitted, but with limited numbers, not exceeding 25 in attendance. Secondly, all universities, senior high schools, and basic schools, i.e. public and private schools, will be closed Monday, 16th of March 2020, till further notice. The Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Ministry of Communication, has been tasked to roll out distance learning programs. However, BECE and WASI candidates will be allowed to attend school to prepare for their examinations, but with the prescribed social distancing protocols. Thirdly, the government of Ghana's travel advisory, issued earlier today, should be observed as announced. Fourthly, businesses and other workplaces can continue to operate, but should observe prescribed social distancing between patrons and staff.
All right, so that was the president speaking last night, and just a brief overview. All public gatherings, including conferences, workshops, funerals, festivals, rallies, sporting events, religious activities, that's churches, mosques, have been suspended for the next 4 weeks, and private burials are permitted, but with a limited number, not exceeding 25. We also know that all schools, so universities, SHS, basic schools, public and private, closed from today until further notice. Also, there was the Government of Ghana's travel advisory, which was issued earlier. That's supposed to be observed as well. Businesses and other workplaces can continue to operate, but should observe prescribed social distancing between patrons and staff. Supermarkets, shopping malls, restaurants, nightclubs, hotels. And somebody was like, why would you close churches and leave nightclubs open? So there's that. And then, of course, there's the very controversial, the Ministry of Transport should work with the transport unions to ensure hygienic conditions in all vehicles and terminals by providing, amongst others, hand sanitizers, running water, and soap, and so much more. There's also been an argument on social media about keeping people safe on trotros. And people who are taking public transport. I'm thinking about like the VIP yard circle this morning. People trying to get transportation and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how we work around that. And of course, we're hoping that there'll be no panic buying. There were reports on social media that people had tried to go to the market over the weekend, and some of the shops were really low on supplies because people have started bulk buying and all of that. But we're just going to quickly move on to remind us of the important things that we want to do. So we know, and Coach is going to tell you something very important about soap in a little bit. But before we do that, just remember that the most effective thing in preventing coronavirus is hand washing. So 20 seconds, take your time, rub in your palms, back of your hands, in between your fingers, your thumb, underneath your fingernails. I saw Daniel do this really weird thing. He filled his hand with sanitizer, so one hand, and then kind of like put his fingers together, and then was like kind of squishing the sanitizer so it gets under his fingernails. That's how extra. Well, yeah, there's that. But then
my fingernails are short. My fingernails are short.
There's we're all being a little extra this morning. But remember, hand washing, the most important thing that you can be doing.
I was actually advised when I went to Kolibu. I was actually advised by a doctor to pour hand sanitizer enough for it to form a small pool in the small of your palm. And then just squish. And that's how you start washing.
This is radio. Nobody knows what squish is. So basically what you're saying is you put enough in one palm, and then you use the fingers of your other hand to you put the fingers together, all 5 of them together, the tips, and then you squish that 5-tipped inside
the small pool you form. Then you pour it into the other palm and do the same. Yeah, that's how you show it's right.
Okay, but so what's it about soap?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, there are 3 things you need to do to survive out in these mean streets in these coronavirus days. First is what we're about to talk about, which is hand washing. The second is social distancing, and the third is not touching your face. Okay, we'll come back to those later. Back to hand washing. It has been proved by science that soap is actually more effective for washing hands than hand sanitizer. Now here's the reason why. A virus is made up of 3 parts. There's the RNA, which is the ribonucleic acid. There's the protein, and then there is what they call the lipid. Now the lipid is like the fatty bilayer, which binds all the parts of the virus together. Now what happens is that soap dissolves that fatty bilayer, the lipid. Soap dissolves it so that the entire cell falls apart and becomes inactive. It also creates surface tension, so that if you have it on the surface of your hands and you use soap is great at creating surface tension. We did a GH for STEM experiment on that, and it just removes anything no matter how small, even viruses, from the surface of your hands. That's the reason why soap works even better than hand sanitizer. So what the experts advise is that wash your hands every opportunity you get. Every time you walk past a sink or running water, wash your hands. Use soap if it's available. But in between, wherever you go, keep hand sanitizer on you, so that after you touch surfaces, after you don't shake hands, but after you touch anything or come into contact with anyone, you can use the hand sanitizer in between washing hands. But don't compromise on washing your hands.
And finally, Winston.
Well, just a few things, because Kojo has talked about very important things about washing your hands with soap, but it's also important you get to know how long the virus could, last on surfaces, because there are many people who are thinking that, okay, with HIV, we're told it can't really last for a very long time, so we're always, talking about how it wouldn't really worry us. But according to, Professor James Lloyd Smith, who is an ecology and evolutionary biology professor, it's important we distinguish his portfolio so that now he's done a research and says that the virus survives on hard surfaces up to 72 hours. So hard surfaces like
this one,
like this one. Yes, I mean it's a hard. So that's plastics. It could survive on plastics and these hard surfaces for some 72 up to 72 hours. When it comes to cards, it could last for 24 hours.
So your complementary cards,
it could last on it for up to 24 hours. And the thing is that, it likes the stainless steels and all the door handles that all of us like touching very often. And finally, one that doesn't last longer on is copper, 4 hours.
Interesting. And that's not long.
That's not long.
And apparently it stays in tissue for 15 minutes, so that's why it stays into tissue, throw it away. When we come back later on, Daniel, though, we'll be talking about social distancing, because we've been talking about that a lot. So stay tuned, is my point, to Joy997 FM. I'm not taking over your hosting duties. I will keep quiet now.
You're welcome to any day. The online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, and Goyle Good Energy. Goyle has released onto the market a higher grade Super XP Raw 95 for all consumers. So from now on, all Goyle service stations are offering higher grade Super XP Raw 95 at no extra cost to our cherished customers. Consumers no longer need to pay more for any higher grade petrol specification. So you save money by buying Goyle's higher grade Super XP. Choose the right fuel. Choose Goyle Good Energy. Yeah, dear. Now you heard right. Whether you're a trader, a businessman, a student, a corporate executive, a professional, teenager, child, or self-employed, you can have a bank account at Zenith Bank. Open a Zenith account today and enjoy the services of a bank that works in your best interest. For information on our products and services, visit zenithbank.com.gh. Also chat with us online via our website or call Zenith Direct on 0302-680-884, 0302-680-884. Our customer service representatives are ready to serve you. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. We'll be right back. Stay with us. This is the Super Morning Show.